Hello, everyone. Today, we will begin our Apsona journey. This will be an introductory video that will go over Apsona, various config options, rights, users, what the various tabs mean, some querying, and even some updating of detailed records in Salesforce. In future videos, we will delve deeper into other capabilities, more advanced capabilities such as yard site, statement, tax letter merging. So to start off, what the most sought after question is, what is Apsona? What does it do? Why do I need it? So I will start off by essentially saying that it is a third-party tool that we use in Congregation Connect that has three main purposes. The first being that it's a data tool. So we can import or update records, we can mass update records, we can query records. The second being is it's a reporting tool. It has really extensive reporting capabilities that go beyond what Salesforce allows you to do. So for example, Salesforce allows you to select a report type based on the object. So when you go to reports in Salesforce, you pick, is this a contact record, contact object you're doing it on? Are you doing it on a account object? But in Apsona, it's very similar, but you can do a lot more capabilities that allow you to navigate through different objects. So for example, if we go into Apsona and we pick contacts as a initial object to query on, within the query, we can go to the parent object, which will be accounts, or we can go to the child object, which is all the detailed fields within it. I will go over this towards the end of this training, but essentially it's in more advanced extensive reporting tool as its second use. And the third most common use that people use this for is that it has mail merge capabilities. So from Apsona, you can send letters, you can send statements, tax letters, yard sites, all of which you will probably use, and that is the most extensive reasoning behind it. We will, in future videos, go over simple mail merge templates. I'll go over yard sites, I'll go over tax letters, I'll go over even statements. But in this initial introductory training video, it's just going to be the overall Apsona training with all the various features that it has. So to start off, initially, Apsona, you need to install it. So you can get that from the Apsona, from the App Exchange, and just initially download, install it in your org. And you can see that where it's installed by going to Setup. And we can type in packages, and we go to install packages. So these are all the packages that are installed in Salesforce. So after you install Apsona, you should see an option where it will say Apsona for Salesforce. So from here, we are going to go to Manage License. And you're going to see that you have 3 licenses. Again, this is based on what you purchase from Apsona. So initially, they start off with 3 license packages. So as you can see here, we purchased 3 licenses in our demo org. And we're using all 3 on specific users. These are the specific users that right now have access to Apsona. Keep in mind that what's very important here is the profile. Just remember this part. I will show you what this means in Apsona. It has to do with configuration, but this profile is very important on what you also see in Apsona. So for example, what I'm in now is the demo org user, and I'm a system admin. Okay, so, and also another important feature or thing that I should mention while we're in this screen is that if you inactivate a user under your users in Salesforce, so I'll go to my users, And say, for example, we inactivate one of these users and we check off active and we inactivate them, then that won't take them away from their specific access to Apsona. So if you inactivate a user and we go to Apsona now, they will still take up a license spot. So you also have to go in here after you inactivate user and remove the user. So you would essentially have to click remove and then add the new user you want to give rights to. So this is essentially the gist of what you need to do in Salesforce. You need to install Apsona. You need to go to installed packages, add the user to the list of managed users in Apsona for Salesforce. You need to keep track of what profile they have access to, and you have to make sure that they are an active user. Another thing that you should know is that if you give certain rights to an individual in Salesforce, say for example, my demo user doesn't have access to financials or doesn't have access to contacts or accounts or any one of an object in Apsona, even if you give them rights in Apsona to that object, they won't be able to see it. So that I'll also explain later on. So now we need to go to Apsona. So there's a few ways to do it. You can go to the waffle on the left. You can type in Apsona and you will see it show up here. Now we are in the Apsona screen right here. So you'll notice that it's similar, but not a one-to-one with Salesforce. So you have these drop-down tabs that list all the objects that are available that you have set up. You can add more objects here. You can remove objects here. You can add more objects and more. That I'll also go over and how to do that, but it's essentially very similar. So the first thing you do, besides setting up Salesforce Apsona package and the licenses that is after you do that, you go to settings while you're in Apsona, you go to manage licenses. Here is where you are going to go to assigned users, and you are going to see who is assigned the licenses. So as you saw on the previous screen in Salesforce, I had these 3 users assigned to a package. As well, you need to go into Apsona and add them under settings, manage licenses, assigned users, and add them here. You can also give them specific rights in here to do some things. So for example, this is document generation. So generating, so this is where you're going to create documents. You can give rights along those lines. Okay, so the next step is that that I do need to mention is Apsona is very browser based. What that means is that, for example, you create a new object or a new field in Salesforce. So you create a new field in Salesforce, let's say, I don't know, let's go to Seinfeld household. We'll go to Jerry Seinfeld and we'll say you add a new field here called likes peanut butter, and it's a yes or no. The fact that you created it in here will not show automatically in Apsona. It will have to refresh. And to refresh, it's very simple. You go to settings, clear cache. That will tell Salesforce that I am clearing my cache and I want to pull in all the fields, any changes you've done in Salesforce. So that's a very important thing that I recommend users know about. And another thing with clear cache is sometimes Apsona has glitches. Sometimes it doesn't update properly. Sometimes you won't see proper data in here. Sometimes when you do a mail merge, the data is not updated and it's not exactly what's in Salesforce. I always recommend the users go into settings, clear cache, and to check if that fixes it before even contacting us. So it's a very interesting, useful tool to have and to know about. So when all else fails, clear the cache. If that works, great. If it doesn't, obviously contact us and we can look into further why your mail merge wasn't working or why your data is not up to date, etc. So it's basically essentially your first step in troubleshooting before you contact us. So another thing is, like security settings within Salesforce, we also have configuration settings in Apsona. So this is a way to add and remove the tabs that you see on the top here. So this is also done by going to Settings, Configurations. So as of now, I have 3 configurations set up. You will come, when you install it, it will come with a default configuration. So if I click on this, you will see all the visible objects. You will see the menu bar items on the top. You will see what the user permissions have. So if I, for example, go to default configuration and I click on edit, I apologize, you can't edit the default. So let's go to one of the ones that I created. So let's go to system admin configuration, click on edit. This will show all the objects that are available on the top and what people can see. So right off the bat, you see user permissions. They're able to delete, export, import, mass update, create. You see all the visible objects that they can actually look into. So for example, these are all the ones that I have been set up for. We can go to the next screen. These are when you go to an account, for example, here, these are all the objects or the fields that you'll be able to see when you go to accounts, and you see the records in there. So if you want to give people access to accounts, but you don't want them to see, I don't know, their account type, you can uncheck it here. So when they go to account drop down and they see the accounts in there, they won't see the account type. The next thing is the setup menu bar. So this is essentially what you can see up here. So as you can see here, account is matching contact, invoices, transactions. So say you don't want to give your member who's part of this configuration rights to just even look at outreaches. So you would go to outreaches here and you can just drag it away, and just keep in mind that I see it here now. So when I did that and I hit save, it's going to ask me to refresh or essentially clear the cache like I was mentioning before. And now you won't see outreaches as I was showing you before. So it's just a way of removing these drop downs when you actually don't need your users to see them. It's always better to have less than more, and just for the fact that number one, you won't confuse your users, and number two, you probably don't want to give rights to everything. Now let's go to let's see the next thing. So I did mention that earlier, but I'll say it again, that for example, we go to transactions here. And we're going to see every transaction in the system. If, for example, you have not given my username rights to transactions in Salesforce, no matter the fact that if you go to settings and go to configurations and you essentially give rights to transactions here that we gave rights, even if you've given rights in Apsona, but you haven't given into Salesforce, you won't be able to see any transactions in Apsona. So essentially what that means is Salesforce takes precedence over Apsona. So just remember that you should always give access first in Salesforce to the different objects, and then from there you can give objects in Apsona. Okay, and so that's essentially, so this is settings again. That's very important. Settings and configuration. So it's very, very important to decide what each configuration is going to have rights to. Now, based on that, we're going to go to settings. Let me go to users again. And you will see that these are all the users that have access currently. So this is the user I have, and you'll see the username, you'll see what right they have. They have a profile as system administrator, and that is what's in Salesforce. And it's very important to see what they have rights here and profile associated with it. Like I said, this profile is associated with configurations. So right here. So if you did want to change, so system administrator now just has, this is the profile for Salesforce, and this is the profile for Apsona. So now we'll go through the various tabs. So again, this is very similar to Salesforce. You have accounts, you have contacts, invoices, transaction, designation. So we can go, for example, go to contacts. And by just clicking on contacts, we are going to see every contact in the system. And then from here itself, we can change, what you want to see here. I personally don't use this too much to look up records. I'll use Salesforce, but you can use it to just go to contacts and search through here. You can search by primary, email, and if you wanted additional columns to show, that's also done under Tools, Edit Layout. So for example, we have full name, primary, phone, email. So that's the list pane panel here. So if we wanted to have another, I don't know, age column, we can just drag it there, hit save. We're gonna have to refresh like I told you before, and now you have an age column to show here. So again, we're just in contact, we clicked all contacts. Another interesting thing is when you click on a contact, let's say I'm gonna look for, we always like to use our Jerry Seinfeld example. So when you click on Jerry Seinfeld, you see contact details on the right. Again, I don't really use this that much, but if you wanted to, you can add, remove fields here by again going to Tools, Edit Layout, Detail pane, panel, and just dragging things left and right. So this is what is currently shown. This is additional fields we can put in. The extent of what I use this for is when I go and find a contact in here. If you scroll down to here, you can click on the actual contact ID and it will open it up in another tab, and you'll be in Salesforce directly at the contact level at Jerry Seinfeld's record. So that's essentially the extent I use it for, but again, you can use it for looking up things. You can use it for other various things that you can think of. So that's how you change the layout here. That's how you change the layout here. You also have this below, which is the child record. I'll go into details in a little bit. So now you're in the contact list. So let's just go back to the list, all contacts. Let's get rid of this. And say we wanted to do a query on certain contacts. So let's say we wanted to query all contacts in Salesforce that are over the age 30. How would we do that? Well, that's where Apsona is, I personally believe, a great tool, because you can query, you can do multiple queries, you can query on child, parent objects. It's very, very user friendly. So I'm in contacts now. I'm viewing all contacts. To add a query, you click on this funnel object. And this brings up this new window. From here, we are just literally going to put in line by line what we want to query on. So for, like I just said, for example, let's say we want to query on all contacts that are 30 and over. So what I did is I clicked on contacts, I typed in the age right here. So I want to query on this field, contact age greater than 30. And we hit search. So keep in mind, we had 817 contacts before. Now when we search, we have 322. So we're only going to see the contacts that are above 30 years old. Just a quick thing I glanced over, I didn't actually mention, is that this is very similar to Salesforce as well, the greater than, less than. The only things that are different, I would assume, is that they don't have, they have at least here, which they, in Salesforce, they don't have. So you would say something like, if you want greater than or equal to, so you would say at least. So it would be at least 30 years old, as opposed to in Salesforce, you would say greater than or equal to. So now we have these 322 contacts that are all over 30 years old. So what if we wanted to filter it even more? How would we do that? So we click on add term, and then you'll notice that a new line shows up. You have a new filter logic. And from here, we can query on an additional field based on these 322. And this is another neat feature, and coming back to what I was saying before, is now we have the capabilities to query on the account level, which is the parent of contact. So if we go to account here, and we say, I don't know, let's say billing, let's look on billing state. So we'll say billing state, I'm gonna say, I know where Jerry is, so I'm gonna kind of cheat here. We'll say, okay. So we're gonna say the state is Oklahoma. So we'll search, and now we only get 3 users from that 322. So that gives us, so right in itself, right there, we did something we can't easily do in Salesforce. We queried on contact, and we queried on another object, which is accounts. As a side note, I know some of you are advanced Salesforce users, and you do have cross-tab filtering in Salesforce. That you can do that, but it's a lot more steps, and it's, in my opinion, a lot more complicated. But in Apsona, it's very simple, and now we can just do it on contact level, then we do it on accounts. The next thing is, I'll even go even further, which I didn't mention, is if we do add term, you'll notice a new line, a new filter logic. By the way, we can add filter logics here where you can put 1 and 2, and you can literally replace this with or. But we'll go into that into future. We'll go much more into that in future videos. So now let's say we want to filter on a child object, and all child objects are indicated with this asterisk. So let's see, let's go enrollments. Yeah, we'll do that. So we'll say anybody who's over 30, their billing address is Oklahoma, their enrollment, they have at least 1 enrollment. So let me go back to there. So enrollment, and get at least 1 enrollment. The way you can do it is you go to metrics, you do number of records. So metrics is essentially just the number. So it's just you're essentially telling Apsona, I want the number of enrollments. I don't want anything. I don't want a true or false. I don't want anything. So we do number of enrollments, and we'll do at least one. So they have to have one or more. Now we search, and it looks like Jerry Seinfeld is the only one who is over 30, lives in Oklahoma, and has at least one enrollment. And how can we tell this? So we're gonna click on Jerry Seinfeld, like I was mentioning before. The only reason why I ever really click on it is now I can click on his link, goes directly to Jerry Seinfeld, so we can test everything that we thought that we wrote. So now we notice his age is 62. We notice that, so that satisfied our first query. We can go to now the account level. We'll go to the Seinfeld household. We'll see where his billing address state is. This is Oklahoma. And now actually I skipped it, but we can go back to Jerry Seinfeld and see if he has any enrollments. And he does. He has 3. So in one quick swoop, we got everybody that satisfies these 3 criteria. So it's a very, very useful tool, very interesting, great tool that I recommend everybody learn and use. So FYI, you can go to invoices, transactions, and you click on the filter, and you can filter and do queries from there. So now, next thing, interesting thing that you can do in Apsona, which you definitely can't do in Salesforce, well, easily, is that let's say we have Jerry Seinfeld here. I want to update his record. So I can click on his record here, and I go to Tools, and I click on Update Checked. So from here, what I can do is I can go to Jerry Seinfeld's record. So let's go back to Jerry Seinfeld's record, and let's pick a field. I don't know. Description. Let's say we want to update this description to something completely different. So ideally, this is a bad example because we only have 1, but if we had 10 people that resulted from this, we can say, we can highlight, we don't even have to highlight, we click on it. We don't have to click on it. We go to Tools, Update All. And in our case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to Description, Contact Description, and we're gonna update to whatever we want. So in this case, we're gonna say, we just updated an Apsona. And we're gonna say Update. I will show you that it will come up with a download result, which will be an Excel file that'll show the contacts or the objects that you've updated and if it was successful or not, and go from, you know what, I'll actually open it up. And it will show the contact description before and after, and if there was any errors. So unfortunately, I'm having technical difficulties to show you that, but essentially this Excel file will show you the contacts you've updated, if there were any errors, and what they were before and what they were now. So since we just updated this in Apsona, we'll go to Jerry. We'll refresh the screen here. And you will notice that now, look, we just updated in Apsona. So this is a very useful tool that if you find a bunch of contacts, a bunch of transactions, a bunch of things that you want to update at once, instead of going manually one by one by one, if you can filter them in Apsona, you have the capability to do mass updates, where you can update any of the fields within the contact to what you want. So another thing I can think of, let's say we wanted to update all. So instead of a field, we wanted to update the field, instead of a value, sorry, we wanted to update it to an expression. So what does that mean? So we'll do the same thing, description, contact description, and we are going to update it. So we can take the contact description and update it with what's in the age field. So what you're essentially doing is I am taking Jerry's age or all the people's ages that I've found, and I'm updating it. I am updating their one field from another field. So as you see here, I go to Jerry, now it's updated to 62. Another useful feature in here is, let's do update all as well. Go to field or expression, contact description. So now we're going to go to expression. Let's say we wanted to update the field with how old they're going to be 5 years from now. So I'm going to say age, and then we're going to say +5. Then we're going to say update. So now we go to Jerry. Remember, it was 62. And now ideally it should be 67. So it's, again, a very, very, very useful tool where you can update fields in Salesforce with whatever you want in here. By the way, I did age +5. You can do age plus, in quotes, is just a number. And we'll put a space right there, and we'll do, no, actually, I have to do it again. Sorry. So we'll go to tools, update all, and we'll do update. So we're going to update Jerry now. And so my purpose of showing you this is that we can do a digit, we can do a text field, you can do update based on another field. So 62 is just a number. So yeah, so that's the gist of initial Apsona. So what I recommend is setting up Apsona, assigning your users managed licenses to Apsona in Salesforce, going to settings, configuring all the licenses, making configurations so you have specific configurations based on what you want to give them access to, and then essentially going to settings. Yeah, so doing that and then just going through each tab and getting a feel for what they are. So like I mentioned, accounts is like accounts in Salesforce, contacts is like contacts. It's just going through and then making these specific queries. The next video that I will go over, I've decided to split them up into various videos. It will be actually doing mail merges. So the next couple of videos will be doing the mail merge from the list of results you get. So for example, just a quick view is we can click on Jerry Seinfeld, and from here we go tools. Sorry, we go contacts and we go to reports. And here we're going to create reports that you're going to use to mail merge. Again, this is more advanced and this will be in the next few videos that we release. Thank you so much, and I will see you all soon.